and I thought Batman Begins was amazing. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for a movie that I literally have wanted to see since it came out. Seriously. Ever since this movie came out, I wanted to see it. I remember I was going to see it in theaters, but my mom's like, oh, warning you, this movie's extremely dark. You probably shouldn't see it. You're not old enough to see it. And I'm just like, whatever. So, I had never actually watched this movie. I didn't, and I don't know why, because I saw the next movie, which I will be reviewing, but let's just get it out of the way. This is a movie that really needs no introduction. It's the 2008 heist action classic, The Dark Knight. This is a movie that really needs no introduction. Now, you guys know I absolutely love Batman Begins, and I could not wait to watch this movie. Seriously, like, I couldn't wait to watch it. I wanted to start watching, like, after I watched Batman Begins, but I'm like, no, I gotta watch Girl Meets World. And I could not wait to just watch this movie, and finally I've seen it, and obviously The Dark Knight's a masterpiece, but it's not just a masterpiece, it might just be the single greatest action movie I have ever seen. To be completely honest with you guys, it might just be, and there are tons and tons of reasons why I love this movie as much as I do, but first let's get to the plot of this movie, which is one of the things I think makes this movie as good as it is the plot. They stepped up everything so much in this movie. Not just Christopher Nolan, but everyone really is stepping it up so much more in this movie, and I'm going to talk about that. But let's get to the plot of this movie. Basically, the plot of this movie is there are these bank robbers now that basically are led by the Joker, and he actually is trying to do sort of like in Batman Returns what the Penguin was trying to do, would turn Gotham against Batman. However, what he wants to do is a lot more impactful, because he sends this warning to Batman that if he doesn't turn himself in and basically try to take him down, then he's going to kill everyone that Batman loves and just go after them one by one, and basically Batman has to surrender. And there are a lot more other things going on in the movie, but that is the basic plot, and I know it's not a very good plot description, but that's the basic plot of The Dark Knight, and it really is an awesome plot. It really is. You can tell how much more this movie is, because everything about this movie is so much more than Batman Begins. Batman Begins perfectly set up the origin story of Bruce Wayne and told the story of things like that, but this is what you want in a Batman movie, and more. It's so much more than just what you want in a Batman movie. First of all, let's just get to the acting in this thing. I mean, this is a movie where I don't even know where to begin. It's that awesome, and to say that Christian Bale is, fucking amazing as Bruce Wayne and Batman is an understatement. He is probably one of the single greatest performances just as a hero, really. He is so good in this movie. The introduction for Batman in this movie is so awesome. Honestly, he's taking down all these guys, and there's this guy that's dressed up as Batman, and they're like, what's the difference between, what's the difference between you and me? And he's like, I'm not wearing a hockey mask, and I'm like, that's the Batman that I love. Seriously, that's fucking awesome right there. He is so awesome as Bruce Wayne. What Bruce Wayne has to deal with in this movie is actually very interesting, because it's a lot of more emotional. I mean, yeah, it was emotional in Batman Begins, but that was more of who killed his parents. This is a lot bigger, because now he's Batman. He's this vigilante, and, he's in the public eye of everyone, this hero, and he kind of has to think, what's crossing the line between a hero and a vigilante, because they are two very separate things. If you're a vigilante, like the laws against you and things like that, and if you're a hero, you're a hero. There's a big difference between the two, and Batman really, Bruce was really thinking about what is the difference between these two things, and just the emotional journey that he goes on as a character is just amazing in this movie, and it really is pretty sad what ends up happening to his character, but I just thought he handled it all perfectly, really. He was fantastic in this movie, and also we get a lot more of him as Batman in this movie, which he is just such a badass as Batman, really he is, but he also is very emotional too, and I love seeing that emotional side as well. That's something that, again, the first four movies didn't do, and that's really something that the Nolan movies do very well, is the emotional moments. Michael Caine is Alfred. Not in the movie as much as you think. He is in the movie a lot, but not as much as the first one. He was still great. However, we have to talk about Heath Ledger as the Joker. Heath Ledger as the Joker might be the single greatest villain I've ever seen. He is just fantastic in this movie. something about the Joker that Heath Ledger did. First of all, he kicked Jack Nicholson's ass as the Joker. Seriously. Jack Nicholson as the Joker is great, but he's basically just Jack Nicholson playing the Joker. This is what the Joker is meant to be. Something I loved about the Joker in this movie is that the Joker knows that he can't fight Batman. He knows that if he were to fight Batman, Batman would beat the shit out of him because he's so much more powerful than him. But he tries to, he fights Batman more emotionally and gets into his head more and tries to turn people against him. And I just thought Heath Ledger did an amazing, amazing job with that. It's so tragic that he had to die even before this movie came out. I believe he died, which is really sad. Apparently, he had an overdose, and he was even nominated for an Academy Award because of his performance, and he won. He actually won the Academy Award for Best Featured Actor, and he totally deserved it. He was fucking amazing in this movie. Seriously, he was amazing. I mean, he's so creepy. He has such quotable lines. He totally got into that character of the Joker. If you were to look at Heath Ledger, you'd never think this guy's the Joker. In fact, when Heath Ledger was casted, people didn't think that he'd make a good Joker. And it's understandable why. I mean, the Joker is not really something that just anyone can pull off. You have to have a very specific look. And back then, Heath Ledger was doing, romantic movies and, these teen movies, just, really silly movies. They didn't really see Heath Ledger as a Joker. But, of course, Heath Ledger gave one of the best performances of all time. He is fantastic in this movie. And he really is what makes this movie as good as it is. The thing is, though, the Joker actually isn't in the movie as much as you think. He has about 50 minutes of screen time. And I think the reason it's so good is because of how much it affects everything else going on in the story. And he was just fantastic in this movie. Knocked it out of the park and gave one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. He was amazing. He was fantastic. Gary Oldman as Lieutenant James Gordon and later Commissioner Gordon, he does become the commissioner in this movie. He had so much more to do in this movie, and I thought it was awesome. Honestly, you know what this movie did? I am never, ever watching Gotham again. After this movie, I can't watch Gotham anymore. The way Jim Gordon is portraying this movie is how he should have been portrayed in Gotham. Seriously, he should be. He is absolutely fantastic in this movie. The way this all affected him emotionally, the way that, the Joker affected him, his, alliance with Batman, everything really is questioned for him in this movie. I thought they did an amazing job of that, and I absolutely love that about his character in the movie. He just gave an amazing performance, and again, knocked it out of the park. He really stepped it up. He really was fantastic. One of the things I love this movie, though, is how fleshed out Aaron Eckhart was as Harvey Dent. I mean, Aaron Eckhart blew me away in this movie. He was amazing, honestly. He was amazing, especially towards the second half of this movie, which is a huge spoiler that we'll talk about. Oh my god, he was incredible. Really, he was. This is how Harvey Dent should have been portrayed in Batman Forever. After the colossal failure that was Batman Forever, after how bad that was, it's amazing how good he was in this movie. Seriously, it's amazing. Really, it is. He did a fantastic job in this movie. You saw how emotionally this was affecting it, and honestly, the thing I love about Harvey Dent's character in this movie is that he pretty much is doing the same thing as Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne actually is kind of threatened by Harvey Dent because he, in his eyes, is also a hero. He's trying to protect the city like Batman is, but he's not going around being this criminal, being a vigilante and beating up people. He's doing it in a much more quiet way, and this actually threatens Bruce Wayne. I love that little, I love how Bruce did that, between him and Harvey. They really experimented with who's more of a hero, Bruce or Harvey, and I thought they did a really good job with that. And what ends up happening to him in the second half of this movie, I didn't know if they were actually going to go for it. I didn't know if they were going to do it because just the way the movie was going, and honestly, the way they handled it was perfect. It really was. He was fantastic. This is how you portray Harvey Dent. Seriously, I could not ask for a better Harvey Dent. He's the best Harvey Dent we've ever gotten, and I don't think there'll ever be a better Harvey Dent than the one we got in The Dark Knight. Really, he is just fantastic in this movie. And also, another thing I love about this movie is that it's the first Batman movie that has multiple, storylines, and they actually work perfectly. Like, all these other Batman movies have all these multiple storylines, and they don't work, and this one, every single story works. Seriously, everything works. Maggie Gyllenhaal is Rachel Dawes. I don't know why they replaced Katie Holmes. Probably because Maggie Gyllenhaal is 10 times better than Katie Holmes. Not that Katie Holmes wasn't amazing in this movie. I just think that, Maggie Gyllenhaal was so much better than Katie Holmes was in this movie. I mean, she was amazing. She has this, of course, as we know in the last movie, she told Bruce Wayne, they can't really be together and she can't be with him as long as he's Batman. And when the world doesn't need him as Batman, can be with him. But now that he, is now this public figure and she's starting to realize what's going on, starts a relationship with Harvey Dent. And that whole storyline I found very interesting. It didn't really seem contrived or cliche, and I thought they handled it really well, I have to say. I like that Bruce was happy for her, and it's a really tragic story when it's happening to her, but she handled it all perfectly in this movie. She really was amazing, and for a while, I'm not really sure if she's going to get back together with Bruce or not. I mean, it was just really well handled. I love her character in this movie. She was great. Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox. In the first movie, was more a comedic role. He does have some really funny lines in this movie. In fact, he has probably one of the funniest lines where he's like, "Oh, so you want to be able to turn your head?" And, like, they make fun of the fact that Batman can never turn his head. It's hilarious, but he also was a lot more emotionally in this movie, which I really loved, and I thought was very well done. I mean, you really see him not only be there for Batman, but also there for Bruce, and I thought they handled that really well, I have to say. Definitely really good stuff in the movie. Eric Roberts is really great as Sal Maroni, and also, Jim's family, Barbara, whoever played Barbara, she was amazing as well. Everyone was fantastic in this movie. Not one bad performance this entire movie, and that is fantastic. The directing by Christopher Nolan, to say his directing is amazing is an understatement. What he did in this movie is just absolutely fantastic, honestly, because he knew that this movie, a lot of people actually, a lot of people love this movie, but they said it wasn't exactly what they wanted from a Batman movie. It wasn't really what they were expecting. It's a lot slower. It's a lot more emotional. He gave us a lot more in this movie. There was a lot more action in this movie. There's a lot more tension and story as well. And I thought Christopher Nolan just did a great job directing it perfectly. He really handled it in a much darker way. I mean, The Dark Knight is the perfect title for this movie because the story's just getting darker and darker as it goes on. This is probably the darkest Batman movie we'll ever have, honestly. Dark Knight Rises is even darker than this, which I will talk about in that review, but this movie, he did a fantastic job directing it. It's so dark. It's such a raw, emotional story. As much as it is, this action movie, again, it takes Batman from this action movie to this raw emotional story, and again, you forget that you're watching just a Batman movie, even though you see Batman and the Joker and Harvey Dent. You don't really see them as the Batman characters. You see them as real, full-fledged criminals and heroes, and you actually understand why they're doing what they're doing. Even the Joker, you understand why he's going after Batman. You understand what he's trying to do, and it honestly works so much better in this movie. I thought Christopher Nolan did a perfect job directing that. Really, he knocked it out of the park with that. Screenplay is one of the best screenplays I've ever seen. Honestly, the screenplay is perfect, especially when your movie is like 153 minutes. It flew by really because of how sharp and just amazing the screenplay was. I mean, there's not one scene in the movie that's boring. Again, just like Batman Begins, there's not one scene that was boring, and I absolutely love about the screenplay. I thought it was perfect, and it really was just fantastic. The writing was so sharp, and I loved it. I really did. This should have been nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. I'm very surprised it wasn't, and it should have been because it's one of the best screenplays of all time. This movie has one of the greatest opening scenes of all time, and one of the greatest closing scenes of all time. Really, that's how great this movie is. It has, some of the greatest stuff of all time. Now, cinematography this movie is actually very unique. This was the first movie to be shot with one of the biggest achievements that the Dark Knight movies have is that they were some of the first movies to be shot with IMAX cameras. But something I like that Christopher Nolan did is he didn't shoot every scene in IMAX cameras. This is not like Michael Bay where he just shoots every scene in IMAX camera to shoot in IMAX cameras. There are scenes where they are in IMAX cameras, and there are scenes where they're not shot in IMAX cameras. And I'm not saying that Batman Begins was bad because it didn't have IMAX cameras. I didn't really notice the difference, but in here you could, because when the screen has black bars, it's not shot on IMAX cameras. When it's like full screen, it is, and it really made a huge difference because it really puts you more into the story, and this is a movie that just builds and builds and builds, and the cinematography, because that really becomes its own character. The cinematography really shows how, how things are there's so much more tension in Gotham City. I mean, Gotham City, again, it feels like a real city, but it also is just this really corrupted city. It even shows how worse Gotham City has gone. It's gotten so much worse since Batman Begins. Batman Begins, if you think Gotham City was bad then, it's so much worse now. I mean, it's filled with criminals, and It's so corrupted, and you don't know if they're going to be able to save Gotham City in this movie. I mean, the way the movie goes, I really didn't know if they were going to be able to save Gotham City. The Joker was such a big threat that I really didn't know if it was going to work out, and I thought it was amazing the way they handled the cinematography. Really, it was perfect. The action scenes as well were just so awesome. The action scenes in this movie are some of the best I've ever seen, especially there are quite a few I really want to talk about. The beginning bank heist scene is amazing. There's one in the middle of the movie that's awesome, and I thought the way they handled the action scenes are just so good, and they're just so well handled. They're so realistically done as well. I absolutely love that. There's a lot more action in this movie than there was in Batman Begins. Batman Begins, there was action, but that was more towards the second half of the movie, and this is a movie that just builds and builds and builds and builds, and there's more and more action as it goes on, and they just handled it perfectly in this movie. Really, I thought it was all perfectly handled. The score by Hans Zimmer, again, a fantastic score. He does a fantastic job scoring this movie, really building the tension, everything. I mean, he is the man when it comes to scores. Really, he's fantastic. And finally, the editing to this movie. I really want to talk about the editing here. The editing was so good to this movie. I mean, the movie is you know, in many people's eyes, this is a very long movie, but it goes by so fast. This movie felt like an hour to me. It really did, honestly. It felt like an hour because of how much I was into this movie, how much I was into the story, and I absolutely love that. I think they handled it perfectly. Something else this movie made me think of is, I always said Heath Ledger was very controversial as the Joker, and people really didn't know if he was going to be as good. Well, that kind of made me think of how people are thinking Jared Leto is going to be as the Joker. I mean, really, the first time Heath Ledger was a Joker, all we saw was this. See this arch on this disc right here? This was the first shot of the Joker. So, you think of how great Heath Ledger was in this movie. Think of what Jared Leto can do in Suicide Squad. I'm not saying that he's going to be as good as Heath Ledger. And also, just like Ben Affleck as Batman, we really need to see them in the movie before we judge them. Because who would have thought Heath Ledger gave one of the best performances of all time? Seriously, who would have thought that? And it worked perfectly. So now I'm going to get to spoilers for The Dark Knight, and if you guys haven't seen The Dark Knight, watch it right now. I don't care what you're doing. Watch the movie right now. It is probably the best action movie I've ever seen. It is absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It proves that this is probably going to become my favorite trilogy of all time, and if you find out spoilers for this movie, there's no point in watching it. Really, there's no point in watching this movie if you know the spoilers for it. So let me just get into it. So the first major spoiler, of course, I want to talk about is Rachel's death. Oh my god. The way they handled it was perfect, really. And I knew she died because of The Dark Knight Rises, because as I told you guys, the only one I saw before was The Dark Knight Rises. So I knew that Rachel was going to die, but I didn't really know how. When the Joker came up to her at that party, I thought he was going to kill her there. But then when she died in that building, I thought that was perfect because she was just about to tell Harvey that she loved him and everything, that she was going to marry him, and she sent Bruce that note and everything. It was just so sad seeing Harvey go from this really powerful figure who really loves Rachel and is very confident to this really, powerful, vigilante basically who just wants to go after, who wants to avenge her death and just going after everyone and going after, Commissioner Gordon. I thought that was insane when he started doing that. I mean, just going after Commissioner Gordon. I mean, he really did a fantastic job with that, and that was probably my favorite thing about Harvey Dent in this movie, just his transformation from this hero to this vigilante, and I thought they did a fantastic job with that in the movie. However, probably my favorite part of the movie was the twist with what Bruce decides to do with Harvey Dent. Of course, Harvey Dent does die, but of course, Batman makes it seem like he killed all these people, all the people that Harvey Dent was killing. He makes it seem like he killed those people to protect Harvey Dent's identity, and so he is still hope, he still has hope in the public eye, so that way there is still hope in the city, because that's the one thing that Bruce wants. He wants Gotham to have some sort of hope, because he doesn't want it to be corrupted constantly. He wants them to be a hopeful city, and the ending of the movie where you see him just go away on his bat pod, you basically see that everything they work for is just, it's done. I mean, him being the Batman, him being the hero is gone. He's gonna now disappear. I mean, with the way the bat pod just disappears into the night, honestly, that was a perfect way to end the movie. It really was. And the way they handled it, I thought, was perfect. And then when we saw Lucius Fox, shutting down everything that they've worked for, and when Alfred burnt Rachel's letter, that was really interesting, because to me, that seemed like, I mean, I guess I can understand why he did that, because obviously he knows that Bruce is going through so much emotion, he doesn't want to affect him more, but that is definitely going to come back to bite him in the ass in The Dark Knight Rises. You know, we know that whole speech he has and everything, which I will talk about in The Dark Knight Rises. It's amazing, but it was really the perfect way to end the movie. I can't think of a more perfect way to end it. And then when you see Jim Gordon's, son basically saying where's he going and everything, and he's like, well, he didn't do anything wrong. And Jim says, well, he's a hero, and but to everyone else, he's not a hero. And I thought that was honestly very interesting what he said there. And the way they end it was just perfect. It's really sad, but it was probably the perfect way to end the movie, because it took it from, again, this little comic movie to something a lot more realistic, and it really went with the realistic tone of this movie. And I did like that they did get the Joker in the end. I thought that was really good, because you know what? The Joker had enough in this movie. We didn't need to continue his whole story in the next movie, and I like that. But what I like about it is that what the Joker did, and what, Harvey Dent did have an impact on everyone in the movie. I thought they really handled that very well. I absolutely love that, and that was the perfect way to end this movie. So overall, guys, I absolutely love The Dark Knight. It's such a fantastic movie. It deserves every single credential it's got. It deserves all the accolades it's got. It is truly a fantastic movie. If you have not seen The Dark Knight, go watch it right now. It is absolutely fantastic, and I can't think of a better movie. I can only imagine how much better The Dark Knight Rises is going to be. I mean, I remember I saw The Dark Knight Rises in theaters. I didn't really think much of it, but that's before I really understood movies. But after watching The Dark Knight, I know The Dark Knight Rises is going to have a humongous impact on me, and I can't wait to watch it. I know it is going to be fantastic, really. Please watch The Dark Knight. It's an absolute masterpiece, and it deserves all the praise it gets. It truly is fantastic. So that's basically my review of The Dark Knight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw this movie. You have seen it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for a trailer review. I'm going to watch all the trailers. This way I have time to watch The Dark Knight Rises, and then I will review the trailers for you. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.